I think the very idea of the word unapologetic is an important starting point for us. And I think it's an important starting point because it really connects with this idea of what we feel worthy of receiving. In his message and in his workshop, Ken talked about we do not get what we deserve, we get what we feel worthy to receive. We don't get what we deserve. We get what we feel worthy to receive. And I would add to that, that we get what we feel worthy to receive and we are able to hold it, enjoy it, have it, work with it to the degree that we feel worthy. In his work, Unapologetic Manifestation, if you're using the book, you know that there is a book and there's a companion workbook to it. And there is a lot of work to be done to help us understand why so many of us have such difficulty with this idea of manifesting. Why it is that there are blocks to creating a life that is rich in meaning and purpose and in function, because there's so much that we pick up along the way that just simply is not true. Manifestation is not a gimmick. It's not wishful thinking. It is grounded in a conscious way of creating, and it is tied to understanding basic spiritual principles and, understanding how the mind works. And not just the mind in general, but our mind specifically. I really appreciated that in his work, Ken chooses to focus on the word manifestation more than the word prosperity. I have what's the word I'm looking for here? I've been in this work for a very long time, and I've seen all different approaches to manifestation and all different approaches to the idea of prosperity. And sometimes they have seemed to me to be either too superficial or too much focused on the accumulation of stuff. And to me, that is not the highest purpose. That is not what our teaching is really all about. Our teaching is about something deeper and more significant than that. This is how Ken writes about it. He says, I purposefully use the term abundance rather than prosperity throughout this book for a simple reason. I believe that abundance represents the infinite supply of substance and energy available to us at all times, whereas prosperity is our individual realization and manifestation of that abundance. So prosperity is an aspect of it, but not the totality of it. Prosperity lives within the field of abundance. Does that make sense? So it's an aspect of it, it's not the totality of it. Prosperity has also become synonymous with money and finances, limiting the scope of its resonance. Instead, he writes, I understand abundance to be the flow of creativity and a joyful way of life that includes, but is not limited to material resources, vibrant health, enriching relationships, work you love, whether paid or unpaid, and leisure time, or I would say the freedom, leisure and the freedom to enjoy it. And so for many of us, financial freedom is this idea of being able to live under our own terms, to be able to have the means and the resources on all those levels, from relationships to health, to meaningful work, to substance, to all of that, to be able to leverage our resources, all of them, to support our loved ones, to support ourselves, and to support those organizations and efforts in the world that we care about. And if you think about it, money is perhaps one of the least understood and most challenging topics for people to discuss. Think about it for a moment. Talking about money is almost a taboo. How many of you were raised with, you don't talk about your money, you don't talk about what you have or what you earn? Raise your hand if right? That it's just this awkward thing. And if you've done any research on challenges in partnerships, in marriages, one of the greatest factors that contribute to the breakup of marriages is money. It is how it is viewed, what it is used for, how it is spent, how it is acquired. It can cause more friction and discomfort than perhaps anything else. It can cause challenges in business. It can cause challenges in friendship. And if you really doubt it, think about what happens in a family when somebody passes and they leave their wealth in a very seemingly unfair way to those who are left behind. What comes up? Have you ever been in that situation? Right? So money is this funny thing. It's almost impossible to grow up in our culture without some misconceptions about money and prosperity and about abundance. Hence the reason that there is some work for us to do. And oftentimes we might think the work is how do we get the kind of employment or work to get the money that we might want or need, when the work that we're talking about here is a different kind of work. It is the inner work. It is the mindset that we have about the work that we do. It is a mindset we have about what comes to us, what we are worthy of, what seems fair. The work is first inner before it really is ever outer. And so for many of us, we have to clean up, I like the way Ken words this, we have to clean up our BS, our belief system about money. How many of you grew up in a religion or a church that said money is the root of all evil? Yeah? Quite a few of us. Do you know that that's not correct? That's not actually, that's an attempt to quote scripture, but it's leaving an important word out. Do you know what the word is that's left out that's really important, that really changes what that idea is all about? What is the word? Love. The teaching or the words attributed to Jesus is the love of money is the root of evil. That's different, isn't it, JR? That's a big difference. The love of it. When you say you love your partner, do you mean the same thing as when you say you love chocolate? Or you love... So it's the idea that it's the misuse, right? It's the misuse of that feeling towards something that doesn't deserve that feeling. The love of money is the root of evil. We could perhaps say it, we could say it many different ways. The love of money is where the challenge with it comes, because then we are not in right relationship to it. Does that make sense? And so a key part of manifesting a life that is abundant in relationships, in health, in material resources, in work that is fulfilling, and in the leisure time to experience it all, is to be in right relationship with this thing we call money. Does that make sense? To really illustrate that point, Ken did a demonstration in the workshop that I knew was coming because I've read the book and I've heard Ken and seen Ken before, and it caused some energy in the room, right? If you were here, you know what I'm about to talk about. He was encouraging us to break free from the self-imposed prison of lack and limitation, saying that we must courageously examine our thoughts and our feelings about money, about the stories that we tell ourselves about money, and about shifting our beliefs around money, and how shifting those beliefs can be challenging because for many of us, those beliefs that we grew up with, whether it's the root of the love of money, or the root Money is the root of all evil, a belief like that, or that if you do well, somebody else is going to suffer as a result of it, or don't be too big for your britches, or you really need to let your light shine, don't think too well of yourself, don't dream too big. Those thoughts, those beliefs that we have, unless we have dealt with them, looked at them, and transformed them, they lie in the background of our consciousness, but they take shape and form and influence the way that we live our lives today. They influence the things we say yes to, the things we say no to, the things we are willing to jump in and experiment with, the risks that we are willing to take, and the risks we are not willing to take, all playing in the background of our consciousness. Hence the need to really be willing to courageously examine those. And so Ken asked us as a group, what is money? And we came up with a lot of politically correct answers, right? All the politically correct answers. It's a medium of exchange. It's value for something given and received. It's legal tender. We came up with all sorts of different concepts or politically correct definitions of what money is. And then he took out what appeared to be a $100 bill. But when you looked more closely, it really wasn't a $100 bill. It was clearly a counterfeit $100 bill. And so he stood before us and he tore that piece of paper into a lot of shreds and dropped it on the floor. And he asked us if we were bothered by it, and we were not at all bothered by it. Would you be bothered by it? An obviously fake $100 bill torn up into a lot of pieces. And then he took out another $100 bill. This time it was a real one. He even passed it, I think he passed it to you, Robin, and asked you, does this look real? And you hesitated for a moment, but you looked at it and you said, yes, I think this is real. And then what did he do with it? He tore it up, and you could feel the room just go like this. People just, what are you doing? No, 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 no. And he invited us then to check why our reaction. Both pieces of paper, and we had all sorts of answers as to the reactions. He said the exercise really is about revealing to us the emotions we assign to this piece of paper. That the money itself, that there was a visceral reaction that you could see in the room and you could feel in the room. He said, we need to break this myth of scarcity. We need to understand that this piece of paper has the value that we assign to it, and that just as we were able to create it to begin with, we can recreate it again. That either we believe truly that we live and move and have our being in a field of infinite possibility, or we don't. I can tell by how quiet you are that you're dealing with this too. And whether you think it was right or wrong of him to do this, and yes, I know there are laws about tearing up money. I think we all know that. And he then explained that he didn't tear that one up into as many pieces, right? He said, I'll tape it and I'll take it back to the bank. But the important value of that demonstration is it forces us to really look at a relationship with money in a way maybe that we haven't had the courage to look at before. Would you not agree that just the reaction that we have toward that might point to an area where we need to do some healing work? Would you not agree to that? I think it really does. It really helps us kind of look at what is our relationship with money? And of course, money is only one piece of abundance. It is not the entire piece of abundance. And it's really important that we absolutely keep that in mind. Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way says, the universe is not short on anything. It is only we who are short of the ability to receive. The universe is not short on anything. It is only we who are short on the ability to receive. And then he took out one more $100 bill, and he held that $100 bill up. And he said, who is worthy to receive this? And the very first person that put their hand up, guess what? They got the $100 bill. And then he had us take a look at, why did we hesitate to raise our hand, right? I know, even though I knew that exercise, I know that if I had been sitting in that room and was not aware of that exercise, I probably would have had some hesitation to raise my hand. And what would that say about me? It might say I have a little bit of work to do on how worthy do I feel of receiving. Does this make sense? Does it feel a little uncomfortable? It should feel a little uncomfortable. I think it ought to feel a little uncomfortable because we've got such a weird relationship with money, with prosperity, with giving, with receiving, with what we invest in looking at the world and what does it mean to have resources when a lot of the world does not. Ken and I, he stayed with us on Saturday night and stayed with us for a good part of the afternoon, Sunday after the workshop. And we had a real meaningful conversation on where and how does this idea of our personal work around unapologetic manifestation, where and how does that rest in the very real dynamics of the world with the ever-growing disparity between those who have and those who have not? And if you're like me, deeply seated in these teachings and also wanting to be very mindful of the issues in the world, you too probably wrestle a little bit with that and try to understand, how do we manifest a life that is rich in those 5 areas, in the material resources that we would like to have and enjoy, in the leisure time to enjoy it, in meaningful work, in vibrant health, and in rich relationships? What does it mean for us to work to manifest that while at the same time being mindful of the great disparity in the world and what is our noble right action in response to that? That to me is the deepest understanding of these teachings. I would love to see the most conscious people in the world being the most wealthy people in the world, because I think that would leverage the ability to help transform some of the real hurt in our global family. Do any of the rest of you agree with me on that? Yeah. So, and you can clap to that. So we have an opportunity to model these teachings in a healthy and mature way, realizing that as we heal any woundedness or myths or weirdness that we have around money and worthiness and abundance, as we become more whole with that, and as we attract naturally as a result of that more good and abundance in our lives, that we shed the light to help bring others along with us, that we forever look at what are the issues we care about in the world and how do we lend some of our resources, our talent, our finances, our goodwill to alleviating some of that pain. The more conscious people become more conscious, the more I think they are willing to be in service of a greater global good. And that I think is incredibly, incredibly important. The universe is not short on anything. It is we who are short on the ability to receive. Eric Butterworth, perhaps my favorite unity minister, wrote, "You are a divine center of creative enterprise. You are an outlet for the infinite." Take that in for a moment. You and the person sitting next to you, behind you, in front of you, are an outlet for the infinite. Do you believe that? Do you believe that sometimes your outlet might be a little clogged? Yeah. Do you believe that maybe there's a little bit of work in cleaning up that outlet a bit so that you can be a clear outlet for yourself and for others of that infinite good? That's the work that I think he invites us into in his book. It's really not for the faint of heart. He's got wonderful exercises in there, self-reflection exercises, meditation exercises. You can even go onto his website, I'm forgetting the name of his website. Doesn't matter. If you look for Ken Daigle website, you will find that on his website he also has pre-recorded meditations for each of the main steps in unapologetic manifestation. That can be really, really helpful to begin to do some deeper work inside on our relationship with money. He says, understanding the creative process is key. Manifestation is not about magical thinking. It's about consciously co-creating with the universe through our thoughts, beliefs, and actions. Our thoughts, beliefs, and actions. Too often I've heard prosperity teachers just focus on the words that you use and the thoughts that you hold. You've heard me say many times that our meditation practice, one of the purposes of our meditation practice is not just to quiet the busy mind and not just to be able to listen to and listen for that still small voice of wisdom and of spirit, but it's also to inspire us to get up off our affirmations and go do some work. What is the next right step for you? What is the next right step for me? He writes, manifestation is a creative, practical, and grounded process. It is not a passive wish, but an active journey aligning your intentions, emotions, and actions to craft a life of purpose, meaning, and wholeness. Manifestation, far from being purely mystical, is an art, a dynamic blend of your choices and decisions deeply rooted in the natural functions of your mind and body. One of the things that I appreciate about the way he has approached this idea of manifestation is not only from the spiritual understanding of it, but also from the neurological understanding of it. You and I are living in what I think are challenging times, yes, but also very exciting times. Times in which a lot of science and research seems to be diving much deeper into the realms of consciousness and what we would call spiritual practice or spiritual understanding than any generation before us. And as science is able to probe more deeply into the mind and understand and see how the mind functions and how the synapses of the brain fire and how that impacts what it is we continue to see and understand, it gives an added layer of support and credibility to these teachings, that what we hold in consciousness steadily and consistently, what we can believe, even if it's just with a faith, a grain of the size of a mustard seed, what we can hold in consciousness repeatedly, what we can visualize, what we can begin to imagine ourselves feeling into, absolutely works at the level of the brain. Helps to rewire the brain, that what we can vividly imagine actually makes a difference up here. And when it makes a difference up here, it begins to shift the way we see things. Eric Butterworth frequently would say, it is not a matter of setting things right, but a matter of seeing things rightly. And when we do the work inside, we begin to see things differently. I remember years ago, and I didn't have the time this morning to go back and look at it, but my dad was a lover of the radio program of Paul Harvey called The Rest of the Story. Do any of you, some of you are old enough to remember it. And Paul Harvey would tell these amazing stories of people doing all sorts of things, and then there was always the punchline at the end of who that person was and what was really behind the story. And I forget the pianist that he told about once. I want to say Paderewski, but I'm not sure it was. A pianist who had been imprisoned for over 20 years. Prior to being imprisoned, he was a master pianist. He was imprisoned, and obviously in prison they did not give him a grand piano to practice on. However, every single day in prison, in his mind, he vividly imagined his fingers playing on the keys of all the different pieces of music he had played by heart when he had his fingers on the keys. And he imagined it every single day and would practice it over and over and over. And when he came out and sat down at that piano for the first time, it was as if he had never left the piano at all. And part of what Paul Harvey was doing in that particular story and the way that he told it was to reinforce this idea that what we vividly practice and imagine in our minds again and again and again actually changes us, changes our mental apparatus, and in that case, even contributed to this master pianist being able to continue to play as if those years had not been stolen from him. When I think of stuff like that, when I think of what the research is saying about what happens in my brain when I consistently think over the same kinds of thoughts and beliefs and attitudes, what comes up for me is, oh my God, how powerful worry is. Because think about it, many of us are so practiced in worrying, or so practiced in fear, or so practiced in negativity or criticism or doubt. It is whatever we are consistently practicing in, with feeling, with repetition, that is literally reshaping our brains, our very consciousness. And our very consciousness goes out before us to make straight, easy, or crooked and difficult the path before us. It's directly tied to one of our core teachings in metaphysics, the teaching of the power of consciousness, the teaching that everything in our life is created twice. Where is it created first? Yeah, in thought. In thought. Everything we see around us, every physical form, created first in somebody's mind. And then, with resources and action, it can take form. This is why the work that we commit to doing within is so incredibly important. He writes, we can create a culture of abundance by recognizing and celebrating the non-monetary resources in our lives. This means valuing time, experiences, and relationships as much as, if not more than, financial wealth. It means teaching our children that abundance isn't just about what you can buy, but also about what you can experience and share. And one of the very, very strong, important starting points is appreciating what it is, the good that we already have in our lives right now. If you still write checks, and I imagine some of us still do, no matter who you write that check to, make it a point to put before the words, pay to the order, it's my pleasure and joy to pay to the order. Are there some people that you pay, or some organizations you pay, that it is truly your pleasure and joy to pay? Think about the things that you receive in return. I bet yes. Do you have any? Yes? You're very quiet. Are there any that you, I don't want to write that check to SDG&E again. I don't want to pay for these property taxes again. Or, boy, I owe money to the IRS. I don't want to. Can you imagine? I used to do this. When I would have to pay extra taxes, maybe I didn't figure it out quite right. It's a pleasure to pay to the order of the IRS. I would love to have seen the reaction of the person that got that check. I mean, if we're about consciousness, if we're about planting seeds, why not? Why not, right? So it's all grounded in our relationship, our attitude to this flow of what we receive and what we give. And we're going to be studying and journeying all of this in the weeks to come as we take a look at each of the steps that he gives us, starting with this step of our right relationship with money, of being willing to courageously look at and have some conversations with our partner, with our kiddos about money and about abundance. And then to ask ourselves, if there were a place that there's room for us to grow, if there's a place where you'd like to experience some growth, in which of the 5 areas of abundance would you like to see that growth in? It might be in material resources. That might be where there is a real need right now, or where there's a lot of fear or uncertainty right now. Or it might be that you want the leisure time to enjoy what you maybe have spent a lifetime working to create for yourself and for your family. Or it might be that you want to grow in the area of the abundance of rich relationships. We really need each other. We thrive in healthy relationships, both when we are able to give of our authentic selves and when we are able to receive and to bless another. Our relationships are important. Is it health? Is that an area where you are wanting to experience some growth and to manifest more vibrant health and energy and vitality? Is it work? Maybe you're looking for work, or you're sensing it's time to make a change in your work. Maybe you're retired or you're about to retire, and you're at the place in your life where you're thinking, what's mine to do now? What feeds my soul? What do I care about? These are all the various facets, if you will, of what it means to live an unapologetically, beautifully manifested life of fullness. And so I hope that you'll continue in this journey, that we'll continue in this journey together, exploring the steps to unapologetic manifestation, having the courage to look at where is it that we need to do some deeper inner work, and how can we support one another in that journey. I look forward to sharing the time with you. Namaste.